My name is Lynette Blocker Richmond. Okay, my parents were Janelle Blocker Sr. My mother's name was Eva Bell Blocker. And I was born in Charlotte, North Carolina on the 19th of August, 1944. In 1963, I came here. It was August 1963. I came here on my birthday. I was sad because I was here by myself. Nobody knew who I was and or cared that it was my birthday, So I just kind of ran up and down the sidewalk whenever they said my mother had called, and I just ran straight to the office just to say hello and for her to tell me happy birthday. I was here to take a class, LPN class at the Riverside Hospital School of Practical Nursing. And it was a kind of a quickie thing. I was wanting to go to New York, but my parents didn't want me to, so they got on board and talked to Elder Hastings. Elder Hastings talked to Elder Simons, and I was here on the train within, I guess, 48 hours.
Okay, now
Elder Hastings was my pastor at Berean Seventh-day Adventist Church. That's the church I went to in Charlotte, and he was a good pastor. I hated to leave him.
Simons, who
Elder
was?
Simons was the head of a Riverside hospital. He was administrator. That's good. The LPN course was 13 months, and we had several teachers that there were 21, 22 in my class, and all of us graduated except for one. And it was nice. It was not an easy program, but you had to do what you had to do. You had to really study, especially when we got on the floor. It was really. I graduated September, I think it was the 14th, 1963. 64, I'm sorry, 1964. Yes, there were several. Whenever I graduated, I didn't have a job. I worked in surgery, and well, I didn't want to go into surgery at Baptist Hospital because that was really too big. Riverside was small, and it was easier to go into it. It wasn't so busy and everything. So I went out on the floor, 6 South, which was an orthopedic floor, and did my little do. And we had to, we were taught to bathe our patients, to give them back rubs when they get ready to go to bed, give them nourishments just before, and to take care of the patient, whether it was male or female, whatever job needed to be done, we had to do that. So, I was this nurse just come in here ready to take care of male patients just like I would to the female, and they thought I was odd, but it was all right. Yes.
And this was it?
Baptist Hospital. Yeah, it was Presbyterian Hospital. Let me get that straight. It was Presbyterian, and then they changed it to Baptist. I don't know how that happened, but they did. I worked at Baptist 42 years, and I worked on just about every floor that that was there, and I was in the short stay unit. I was transferred because I couldn't. The head nurse on the floor that I was at before I went to a short stay, I was, how should I say it, unorganized. And that made everybody else unorganized. And so I asked my supervisor if I could be transferred. And I was. And I was transferred to short stay. And I did all sorts of things. You know, we admitted patients, got them ready for their surgery, which was either that next day or a week ahead or whatever. We got them ready for their surgery. Drew blood and took histories and, you know, talked to them so they wouldn't be so. We got orders from the doctors first, and so that we would know what to do, and then we just went right on and did it. Our instructors did not, even though I can't remember their names, they did not take short cuts. You had to either learn it or just continue to do it until you got it. You know, you got it in place. I'll use an example, making beds and the sharp corners. That's not an easy thing to do. So, and especially when there's a patient in that bed, and you have to make it so that it's straight out and the corners are actually sharp. They're not. You put the sheet under the mattress and draw it up and tuck it, and it has to be straight sharp. She didn't allow us to not have it done right. And she would go along if it wasn't right. Take it right off. Take it right off. Riverside Seventh-day Adventist Church. That was the one that I joined, that I became a member of. I guess you call it a grandfathering in or whatever, but you know, I was a member. There were a lot of students that were not Adventists, but they had to go to church also, just like we did. I mean, you know, like we do normally. They had to go to church. That was one of our requirements.
They had to go to church on Sabbath?
On the Sabbath.
So did you have training on Sabbath?
No, there was no training. It's just that it was one of our things. You had to get up and go and be seen at church. I mean, the ones who were not Adventists. Now, I would be there the whole sermon, but there were several others who would be. But the ones who weren't Adventists, they had to go.
So, Lynette, when you were here in the early days,
yes,
in Nashville, do you, what pastor do you remember mostly?
Pastor Butler. Elder Lester. There was two Butlers. That was his brother. They were brothers that was here, and let's see. I'll see, Pastor Butler. He was. He was, not to say that the other pastors were not as all too comforting. But Pastor Butler but once you became comfortable in his presence, it was not, you could talk to him and didn't have to stand away, just and not be apart. Because other pastors, I would not be, I was not as talkative to them as, because I didn't get to know them. It's not, it's, Riverside was a family church, and I learned that real early. And I was not, they welcomed me, so I was okay. But Pastor Butler was my favorite pastor.
Is that
I was a Sabbath school teacher for the kindergarten class, and I joined the deaconess group and was a deaconess, and later on in years I became head deaconess. So, and I was a secretary, church secretary for a while, but I could not tolerate the business meetings. There was a lot of when they're discussing, is loud voices back and forth, and that caused me to be very, very, very nervous, and so I gave that up. I just couldn't handle it. First, when I came here, the thing that I remember about the church, it was this brick building, and it was standing alone. It was little. I just thought it was a little church. But once you got inside, it was just like warm and welcoming. That has changed a little bit. That was the friends that you knew. We didn't do as much as going out as, in gathering and selling books and stuff as we did in Charlotte, as I did in Charlotte. But we had members, and it got to be that the church was too small for the members that we had. We had there was a choir that sang every Sabbath. It wasn't 1, 2, or 3 choirs. It was just one choir for every children and the adult choir that sang. We had to get out. The church was out at 12 o'clock noon because the cafeteria closes at 1. Riverside has changed. We built a new building because the old Riverside church had gotten so small. I mean, people were standing in the vestibule or downstairs listening to it, watching it on television. I think they had something down there. I'm not sure. And it was just really too small. And it was time to build another chapel, and I was on the committee. I think it was the Bible studies that they were doing, and different people would come into the church, and once we got in the hospital working, the other students didn't have to go to church, so that changed, and so there was a lot of empty seats, and it just kind of just changed, and I just really didn't really realize it, but it did change. Not formally, But at work, if there was a problem or if something came up, Lynette, what do you think? And I would just, not push the Bible on them, but give them a scenario where it should be done this way and accept it, the right way and not the other way. So, and almost always someone would, if I meet someone, they'll say, what church do you go to? And I would have to down Riverside Seventh-day Adventist Church. I knew that you was a church member. I just knew it. It was just your personality and whatever, I don't know, it's Dolores, whatever you did. Whatever. I was happy to be here. I was happy. I was 19 years old. That was my birthday when I landed my feet in Tennessee. That was my birthday. So, I married my husband, and it was kind of a going for a ride type thing. All the girls in the car, and we just went out for a ride to the park or whatever, and it was neat. And we started dating after that, and started dating and seeing each other, and I guess 3 years later we were married.
What's your anniversary date?
Anniversary date was June the 24th in 1967 is where we were married.
Children to this marriage?
Yes, one daughter, and I don't want to tell her age. Well.
Well, why don't you give us the full name of your husband and your daughter?
My full name of my husband is Walter Richmod Jr. My daughter's name is Teresa Nicole Richmod. She liked to be called Nicole. We're up here. I brought her here every Sabbath. She went to F.H. Jenkins School. There was one incident where as she was a baby, she wasn't a baby, she was about 2 years old, 2 or 3 years old, and she didn't want to sit down. I said, you need to sit down, don't put your feet in on the seat. And she wanted to see what was over there, so she stood up again, and I went outside, got me a sweet, and I plucked at her legs. And the pastor saw me. I think it was pastor. It was the other butler. LeCount Butler. Yes. What are you doing? She didn't do what I said for her to do. You don't spank children in church. I said, I'll get you after church. But she didn't do it anymore. She learned. I didn't have to speak. He took my switch and tore it up. So,
what would you?
Such a stark difference. In our church in Charlotte, I have to use my family, my siblings. We were told what we could do and what we could not do, and what would happen if we did it in a way. And we knew that to be true. There would be a whipping. We sat on the front seat. That's so my father could see us from the choir loft, and Mama would sit behind us, so that, she could kind of save us a little bit, just keep us from talking. And he would see who was being good or not, and he would. But you get a whipping when you got home if you was in the wrong. But now here, the kids here at Riverside they are more outgoing. They don't sit by their parents anymore, you know. They are all over the church, you know. It's since they've got Trina Ware has started the church school for the children. That kind of brought them center in a place. But before that, you never saw a child with its parents. They were always with their friend and that friend's parent. You know, it was maybe 3 or 4 of them and stuff. And that and that was one of the things that was different from Charlotte's church, Korean. Nashville community, we did some in-gatherings and studies that, not me per se, but there was a lot of Bible studies and going on in different areas of the city, and we just got, you know, more people coming to church, to join church and everything, and it was just got bigger, and that was one difference. I mean, it really made a difference. We had a lot of our church members working at the conference. Most of the pastors that would come through for meetings and things at the conference, they would be here they would come to Riverside. They almost never went to Hillcrest. Some went, but most stayed here at Riverside. There was always good eatings, meals and things, and they enjoyed that. When the hospital closed, it was a sad thing, because they had tried so many times. They had the money, and somebody bought it out from under them, and then it was such a heartbreaking thing for them, and the church was very unhappy that we did not obtain the hospital. We did not keep the hospital.
So Lynette,
I've learned that prayer is not just a word. I've learned that it's communication with God, and that prayer does a lot of things that we can't do ourselves. You know, that we have conflicts with one person or another, and you just have to pray to get it together, you know, the way it should be. For me, Riverside has been kind of like a home. You know, I've gone, you know, come to Riverside all my I almost could say all my life, my adult life, and I've never wanted to go anywhere else. There have been several people that have left the church, not the church, but moved to another church, and I've always said nobody and nothing could make me leave my church. I would be here, and there were a lot of things that happened that would cause me to do that, but I just stayed here and just kind of waited it out and prayed until it till they got it together, and then it was all right. You know, it's you have to just kind of wait on the Lord, because He will make it all right, make things happen the way it should happen.